Well, what's going on, everybody? My name is Tyler Anderson from the YouTube channel Tyler's Real Fishing, and I'm coming to you guys on behalf of Lucky Tackle Box today to teach you a little bit about fishing in the wintertime, specifically for bass that are targeting bait fish and throwing bait fish imitation lures. Now, before we jump into this content, make sure you guys are subscribed to both my channel, Tyler's Real Fishing, and this channel, Lucky Tackle Box. Of course, my goal for my channel and LTB is to be as instructional and fun and engaging as possible. That way you guys have a good time watching the videos, but you also learn some very valuable information that can help you become a better angler. So shad. Shad is a word that gets thrown around in so many different fishing circles, whether it's saltwater or freshwater, whether it's largemouth, smallmouth, spotted bass, or anything in between. And really, shad kind of falls under a term called bait fish. Now, here in Texas and in the South, I believe we call everything shad. But around the country and around the world, I believe it's more referred to as bait fish. And that is any sized minnow, or I guess any bait. It's hard to describe bait fish without using the word bait fish. And so the bait fish are the fish that bass eat as bait, if that makes sense. So of course, bass are known to eat crawfish, bluegills, bait fish, minnows, gizzard shads, all sorts of different types of forage, but especially in the fall, winter, and early spring, I'm talking January, February, fish oftentimes feed up exclusively on bait fish. And so that's what I'm going to talk about today. Is I'm going to talk about two different types of ways that you can organize your bait fish, whether it's singular swim baits like this or in a tandem rig like the Alabama rig. Let's get started. So the first bait fish technique that I'm going to discuss with you guys today a little bit is the singular swim bait rig. Now this here is a 3.5, 3.8 inch, what's often referred to in the industry as a Kitech. Now Kitech has kind of gotten the Kleenex brand name. There's plenty of different versions of paddle tail swim baits, but for the rest of this video, I'm going to refer to it as a hand poured or injection molded paddle tail swim bait. Now the reason why I call it paddle tail is because, I don't know if you can see that, I'll have a little bit of a B-roll shot here, is because it literally looks like a paddle. So when the swim bait is working its way through the water, it doesn't have any sort of gliding action. It is a singular back and forth of the tail wobble. And so that is why a paddle tail swim bait works so well, is because it just elicits a lot of vibration from the tail that fish really can key in on. And I can't tell you how many fish I caught on this thing growing up. Whether it was a Strike King, a Kitech, a Beast Coast, a Eco Pro Tungsten, I bought so many of these tiny paddle tail swim baits because they flat out work. You can catch so many fish species on them, whether it's freshwater or saltwater. I've caught trout on them, I've caught white bass, I've caught, of course, every species of bass possible on these things. I think it is the most versatile lure besides a jig out there, and technically it is a jig. It's a swim bait on a jig. So I'm not going to go over the rigging in a whole lot of detail, but basically if you've never used a swim bait like this before, you get your jig head like this. It can either be with a screw lock or without. I prefer to have a screw lock on there because the screw lock allows the swim bait to stay on there, in my opinion, a little bit better. And you thread it as straight as possible down to where the hook is going to poke out. So it may take a few tries for you to get it exactly straight, but I'm telling you, the straighter you get your swim bait on the hook, the better your swim bait's going to look in the water. So I get it to that point there, and then I start to spin it around the shank of the hook. And that right there is how you get a swim bait. Now the combo that I usually throw a swim bait of this type, a 16th ounce head with about a 3.8 inch paddle tail swim bait, is a crankbait style rod. It could be anywhere from 6.6 to 7.6. I've thrown swim baits on all of those. Usually a crankbait reel with some 10 or 12 pound fluorocarbon. But the main rig that I'm going to discuss today, and the main rig that I had the most success on, I just hooked myself. Oop, haste makes waste. Ouch, that hurt. And as you can see, this one's got quite a lot of hooks. I just hooked myself. The one that I had the most success on, as you'll see in this video, is the Alabama rig. Now, some of you guys may look at this thing and say, what the heck is that? And of course, a lot of you guys know about this rig. You know about the success that a lot of pros had with this rig, and you think, that thing's just cheating. It doesn't take any skill to throw this thing. Well, I can tell you what, this thing actually takes quite a lot of skill to master and to understand, and I'm definitely not at that point yet, but I love throwing this thing, especially in the wintertime when fish are feeding up on shad, and here's why. So when fish are keying in on bait fish, of course, in order to find those bass, you have to find bait fish. So you can either, cruise down the bank and look for literal pods of bait fish, schools of bait fish on the shore like I found today, or you can use your electronics to find the bait fish underneath the water. And so once you find that, usually you will find bass either schooled up very close to it or kind of spread apart around the school, whether it's above or below or to the sides, or even using kind of adjacent cover like docks or standing timber to kind of rest and then go out and ambush the minnows after that. And so the Alabama rig is quite possibly the best rig made for this type of fishing. Now I understand it's not cheap. If you are on a budget or you are a bank fisherman, I would highly suggest you not to throw the Alabama rig. And especially if you do, don't buy an expensive one, because this thing has a tendency to sink fast and to get hung up on every single possible thing on the bottom or in the water column. And so I usually only throw A-rigs when I'm in a boat, when I can go back to the area that I was stuck at and retrieve it from the tree or bush that I got stuck on. Now, in my mind, what I think a fish sees when this swims by is it sees a pod of bait fish that are separated from the rest, and the instincts in its mind say, I gotta eat those. I gotta attack those because those ones are off away from their friends. And as you guys know from whether you watched, Blue Planet on the Animal Planet, bait fish, whether it's fresh or salt, love to school together. They find security in the comfort of being a part of a group. And so when you throw a small group like this, either through or just to the side of the big group of shad that you find, oftentimes these ones are gonna be the ones that get hit, not the ones that are part of the group. Now, before we strap the chest mount on and get to some fishing, I want to explain the gear that I'm throwing this on today. The Alabama rig is about a 3 to 6 ounce setup. It's not light. Now, this here, that's about a 3/16 ounce setup. This is about a 6 ounce setup. And so the difference between the two in terms of gear is vast. The one here I'm throwing on a light crankbait rod, and the Alabama rig, I'm throwing it on a 7'11" extra heavy. Now, you may think that a 7'11" heavy with 65-pound braid and a extra heavy flip and reel is probably a little bit overkill for this situation. But honestly, you want to make the farthest cast possible, and you want to have the right line and rod combination. That way, if you get a bite really, really far away from the boat, you are not losing those fish and you are pinning that fish down. So that's kind of the gear that I'm throwing. It'll be linked below for you guys to check out. It is an expensive combo, but this is really the only Alabama rig combo that I have, and I will have this one for many, many years to come, and hopefully many, many big bass to come. So without further ado, let's head on the water and catch some dang fish. So one of the techniques that I will use when I'm throwing either a singular swim bait like this one or an Alabama rig in total is called the countdown method. Now what that is basically finding out how long it takes your bait, in my experience, to fall 1 foot. And so if I put my bait out there and I drop it and I go 1, 2, 3, it's about a foot every second is about what this bait drops. And so if I know those fish are sitting either on the bottom, let's say I'm in 12 feet right here, and the fish are sitting on the bottom looking up toward the shad, I'm gonna cast out there, just like that. I'm gonna go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and I'm gonna start reeling. So when throwing a swim bait, like I said, I rarely ever let the bait sink to the bottom, almost always fishing it inside the water column itself. And because, like I mentioned, fish have eyes positioned on the top of their head, you rarely ever wanna have the bait on the bottom below them because they can't see it. And so you always want to be counting your bait down, testing out different depths, and then reeling it, in my opinion, on a nice slow pace that's not allowing the bait to rise or sink any more than what you let it sink to at the start of your cast. And that might take a little bit of experience and knowledge to really figure out how fast you have to reel your bait back in to not allow it to go up and down. But I think once you find that desired depth the fish are going to be in, you're going to replicate that all throughout your lake or pond and find a lot of success. One thing I'm seeing is that there's so much bait fish up shallow. Like I mentioned earlier, I see, oh, that's a bait fish, never mind. I was just saying, I haven't caught any yet, and there's one. Is it big? It feels big, to be honest. Please be big, please be big, please be big. Don't be a catfish. Don't be a catfish. Oh, it's a nice one, it's a nice one. Good, 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 good. Yes, my first bass of 2019 is a big one. It is a big Alabama rig bass. I think it's about 4 or 5. Maybe not that big. Oh, it's nice though. Bring it in, bring it in, bring it in, bring it in. Yes! Yeah! Heck yeah! Let's go! Big old Lake Travis bass on the Alabama rig. Sweet. And just as I was talking about, you gotta find some of that bait fish that you're matching the hatch with, and boom. Awesome, 3.5 pounder. Sick. So that means, first really bite that I've gotten is around shallow wood with some bait fish. Awesome. This guy's going to the well. Get a nice picture with him. Now, 1 bite is not always a pattern. 2 bites is, so we're gonna see if we can get ourselves a second bite. Got him. Oh, another nice one. Not a bad one. What up, jet skiers? But I just got to this giant, oh, I foul hooked him as he was fighting. Oh, sorry, bud. We'll let you go. There's a giant pot of bait fish right here. I mean, like, it stretches from there to that bush over there. So I'm gonna stay right here and I'm gonna fish the heck out of this area. Because there could be a big one, another one. Ooh. I found the juice, boys and girls. I have found the juice. They are in this area with this bait fish. Not a big one, but we'll get him. Heck yeah. You think he wanted that? He 1000% wanted that. See it, bud? Where's your big sister at, huh? You guys are fun, but where's your big ones? Now, I've caught a few fish on the Alabama rig in this area right here, and of course I could have caught them as well on a regular swim bait. I just have 5 of them and I'm in a boat, so why not? And so I just saw one more fish bust over there, and I kind of hopped over to this bank to get that, you know, that fish group a rest. I'll give them about 15 minutes, and I'm gonna go back and hit them again, and hopefully get a few more fish out of that school. Because especially when they're eating on shad, these fish have a pretty short attention span. And so when they get in a frenzy, like they're feeding on stuff, you can go back the opposite direction with the same exact thing and whack them again. Got him, big one, big one, big one, big one, big one. Oh my gosh, holy cow. That's big, that is big, that is huge. Oh yes, 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 yes. Yes, bring it in, bring it in, bring it in. I got him hooked in 2 places. He's only about 4, but bring it in. Yes, let's go. Heck yeah. Nah, he's only 3.5. Let's go, another chunker. I have discovered the pattern. Let's go. Oh, this feeling feels so good. Oh, it feels so good to know what these fish are doing and to be doing the right thing. Well, Lucky Tackle Box channel, that is all that I have for you guys today. It is always a pleasure for me to come here to the LTB channel, leave TRF for a day or two, and come over here just to teach you guys a little bit about the lures, techniques, and fish that I'm catching on a daily basis. And of course, I don't claim to be an expert. I've just been doing this for a long time, and I believe that I have some valuable information that you guys at home could definitely use to better yourselves as anglers. But if you have any questions for me, make sure you guys leave them down in the comment section below. I'll be down there answering comments. Subscribe to this channel if you haven't yet, and we'll see you guys on the next episode of LTB.